Hi, and welcome to today's presentation. We're excited that you have joined us for the PASS Business Intelligence Virtual Chapter webinar for today. We have AZ on the line. He's going to talk about understanding U SQL. We're going to get to that in just a few minutes, but I do have a few announcements to go over before we get started. My name is Scott Murray. I'm one of the co-leaders for the Business Intelligence Virtual Chapter, and as I mentioned, we're very excited that you've decided to join us today. Just to go over the, as PASS wants to brand it, the community use, there's just a couple of things going on that we do want to go ahead and mention. Of course, the summit that's coming up in a couple of months, there's still time to be able to put in your request to attend. It's definitely a wonderful session. I've been to several PASS summits, and they're a great learning opportunity for you to be able to learn from experts around the world. Also, there's an item called Passion, which is a volunteer type award that they give out each year, and it's basically something that you can nominate these items for and someone for. And so it's a good idea if there's someone that you know of that you'd like to nominate. There's information on the screen. You can also go to the PASS website and see that information about how to make that sort of nomination. Just a couple of events that are coming up, and this one actually just happened yesterday, but I wanted to mention to be on the lookout for some things that are coming up that are related. So yesterday there was a Excel kind of what we call a double duty session. It was actually 4 sessions that were put together, and there's also an item called 24 Hours of PASS. These are free learning opportunities that are available to you. Keep your eye out for these type of things as they come out. Again, the 24 Hours of PASS is coming up in the next month or so, and that's a preview for what's going to be displayed at the summit. Also, of course, there's always the other virtual chapters that are available. You'll notice that I kind of left the previous ones out there so you have an idea of some of the virtual chapter meetings that take place, and then there's a couple more that are going to be taking place over the next couple days. So be sure to attend those. And again, these cover a wide variety of issues, everything from BI, business analytics, performance, just a tremendous opportunity for free learning for you. The other thing is all these virtual chapters are centered either around a topic or around a location. So be sure to not only take a look at the specific topics you're interested in, but also take a look at the location-specific ones that are available. And this is just a quick rundown of all those different opportunities that are available to you. In addition, if you pay attention to PASS, there's some things going on with SQL Saturdays and some transitions that are happening. But no matter what anyone says, as long as the SQL Saturdays continue, it's a great learning opportunity for you to be able to take advantage of free learning. Normally pay for lunch, which is usually less than $10. It's a wonderful free learning opportunity, again, for you to be able to take advantage of experts in the area, and they come and give it their time. So again, take a look for the SQL Saturdays. And just kind of the last thing I'll mention is there's always volunteering opportunities. We are all volunteers here in the PASS community, and there's always opportunities for you to different things. And just kind of mention a couple that I've done in the past. I've been on the speaker and the abstract session selection committee for PASS Summit. I've also volunteered here with the Business Intelligence Virtual Chapter for a little while. So there's always tremendous opportunities for you to be able to help out the community and really to just provide some feedback and such for those that are around us. So and then the last thing, stay involved. You can always go to LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and the PASS website. Those are always available for you to be able to get the information that you need when you need it. So at this time, we're done with kind of the intro section. I'm going to turn it over to AZ. He's going to talk for about 45 minutes, and from that time, or after that time, we'll go ahead and do a Q&A session at the end. So if you have questions, feel free to post them in the Q&A area of the GoToWebinar module, and we will be able to answer those at the end of the session. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to AZ, and he's going to talk for the next 45 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, Scott, for that intro.
Sure.
Hope you can hear me.
We can very well.
Great. Yeah, I'd also like to extend my thanks to Nathan and Miguel for moderating the SQL Pass Data Warehouse BI virtual chapters. And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Pass BI virtual chapter. And good morning or good evening, depending on where you're connecting from. So in today's session, we're going to take a look at U SQL, the new language that Microsoft has introduced to handle big data. So let's get started. My name is Aragappan Arunachalam. I know it's kind of mouthful. So to make it easy on people, I go by AZ or AS. I'm a senior application database architect working in the public sector here in Richmond, Virginia. Some history about me actually. I'm a solutions expert on the data platform. I've been working with SQL Server since version 4.21 back in 1995. I did my first SQL certification back in 97, I guess, so almost 20 plus years I've been working with SQL. Not always at the forefront of it, but then SQL has always been on the back end. So, and I'm excited about all the cloud offerings, of which U SQL holds a special place given my history with application development, especially the technical analysis based trading systems. I used to work on the financial markets. So during today's session, I'm kind of using one of that as kind of the use case scenarios where U SQL can be applied. A little background on what we're going to cover today. Like around 15 years back, when .NET was still in its infancy, Microsoft introduced .NET Remoting as an alternative for DCOM in the .NET space. This is before the introduction of WCF, Windows Communication Foundation. And at that point in time, there was only one documented book available to do .NET Remoting by one author called Ingo Rammer. So I used to write reams of code to manage the distributed processing among a pool of machines, manually establishing the endpoints and doing round-robin distribution and keeping track of processors and cores to not overextend the distribution and scalability features. But fast forward to today, all this plumbing is a matter of a configuration setting for parallelism, as I'll show you as we move forward through the presentation. On this slide, what you see is my Twitter handle, SQLAZ, and that's my blog site. I've just started blogging on USQL. I'm planning to add additional articles on that. And that's my email address. So in case if you had any questions after today's session, feel free to email me. If I know, I'll respond it right away. Else I'll research it and then I'll respond to you in the process of learning. So this is what we're going to cover today. Here's the agenda. So we're going to see like what is USQL and a brief history of the language. Where does it fit in the ecosystem under which it exists? And we'll see what you need to know to get started with USQL. And we see plenty of demos. So let's take a look at what's USQL. It's a new big data query processing language from Microsoft that leverages the familiarity of T-SQL with the expressive nature of .NET. Anybody that works with any kind of application development, they have to store data somewhere, so they'll be using some kind of database behind the scenes, whether it's like relational database or NoSQL or some kind of database. So they all are familiar with some version of SQL. So this USQL language extends that actually. So it kind of like if you're already familiar with T-SQL, you can leverage that. And for the extensibility nature of it, it uses C#. You can work with any .NET code, but then like the gateway is through C#. From C#, you can make references to other libraries actually developed using any of the .NET language like VB.NET or C++ or F#, but the entry point has to be through C#. That's the current scenario. This language is still in development. It's still in preview actually, so it's not generally available. Microsoft introduced USQL at Build 2015, about a year ago actually, so it's still in development. Microsoft has been using it for the internal development for the past 5+ years or something, but then like the front-end tools are still being developed. So this is kind of the overview of the SQL part of it and then the extensible nature of the C#. So most of the familiar features from SQL is available here, but not all of them. So most of those constructs like select, from, where, group by, those things are available. It can operate on both the structured and unstructured data, and it can also like work with relational objects. On the .NET side of things, U SQL expressions are full C# expressions. You can leverage the complete power of .NET. If something is not available out of the box, you can always extend existing interfaces. You should be able to reuse .NET code. If you have some existing libraries, like assume you had a library from MATLAB or any other third party, you can leverage those things actually from within your C# code or any other language, any other .NET language for that matter. And you can use C# to define your own user-defined types, functions, aggregators, etc. So in today's session, we'll take a look at some samples of user-defined function. We're going to deal with something called extractors and outputters. So by default, it comes to like 3 extractors out of the box. But if something doesn't fit your build, then you can extend and create your own. And most of the slides that are from Microsoft, they have links at the bottom of it. So like I'll be making the slides available. So follow through the links if you want to get some additional information on these slides. Besides the features from T-SQL and C#, it also integrates features available in Hive and other big data languages to identify patterns. Like if you store it, all the data is stored on the HDFS side on different file folders, so you should be able to like pull in data using some patterns on the file naming conventions. And we'll go through some of those demos and see like how that can be leveraged. Moving on to the history of SQL. U SQL. Microsoft had an internal project called like SCORE. That's an acronym for Structured Computation Optimized for Parallel Execution. It's the internal big data language that Microsoft has been using behind the scenes. They're supposedly running hundreds of thousands of jobs, aggregating stats on Xbox, Office 365 developments, and other Bing search engine. They run it in batch modes, and they've been doing it the past several years. So the technology is kind of like matured, but then the front-end tools is kind of flaky. But then like the team has been hard at work, and every month they're kind of pushing in some new updates. The most recent update was released a couple of weeks back. So they're kind of on a monthly basis, actually they're kind of pushing some updates. But you have to bear in mind, actually, the product is still in preview. So whatever you see here could change before the product is generally available. And though Microsoft wouldn't commit to a time frame, and I don't work for Microsoft, maybe I can take a guess actually, like probably they might be releasing this product. They have a data science summit coming in next month, so there's a probability they might release it, or probably if the product is not ready, like sometime by the end of this year, they should be releasing this product. It should be generally available. But this is a good opportunity for us to vet out, compare like what it can do, some of the features and things like that. So this is the right time to get to know about what the tool can do. And if you know T-SQL, most of the functionalities from T-SQL are available, like the windowing functions, the metadata models, and things like that. So we'll take a look at some of those things during the demo. Okay. And here, like we are moving towards a weightless economy. Like people don't encourage buying physical copies of anything actually. So they're kind of like moving towards a weightless economy, but a trackable one. Most of those products that we used to buy, like the Office suite of products and things like that, Microsoft is encouraging us to buy Office 365, the one on the cloud. And most of the products, they come with support. So most of the time, the products themselves are available for free, but then like you pay for the support. Anything that's cloud hosted can be tracked. That's kind of the premise. They want to track the usage of it, what features people are using most often, so that they can spend most of the time on improving those features. And lots of devices these days have like come with IP addresses. Either they're always on, or like sometimes they kind of like locally cache, and every now and then when they connect to the cloud, they kind of dial the mothership, and then they kind of share the data. So in today's example, we're going to take a look at the stock market tickers. So that's the earliest form of IoT, the Internet of Things. That dates back to a time period before the invention of the internet in the late 19th century. And the landscape of data warehouse is changing. In the traditional data warehouse environment, a project identifies a subject area, and they build a data mart, probably a Kimball-based data mart with some level of slowly changing dimensions to keep track of changes. As new requirements evolve, additional subject areas are identified and additional data marts are developed. with confirmed dimensions. So existing investments in the current data marts are leveraged, but they might have jagged historical starting points. Assume the first data mart came online on January 1st, 2015, and then when they came across some additional requirements, history starts only after we start developing a new data mart. Probably could be in July 2015 or something like that. So they have a jagged starting points. So to circumvent this shortcoming, people started building Inman-based enterprise data warehouse where they kind of collect everything irrespective of if it be needed in the future. If they do, the history is already available. All they need to do is build a new data mart based on the enterprise data warehouse. The shortcoming of this is that it takes a lot of processing to build the enterprise data warehouse. Lots of ETL, cleansing, staging, denormalization, etc. When you visit Amazon and then you want to leave a review or something like that, Amazon doesn't do nightly batch updates, and they don't expect the people to come back the next day to read the reviews. The moment you leave a review, others visiting the product, actually they should be able to read the reviews right away. That's because they do update the data warehouse on a near real-time basis. So this is where the data lake comes into picture. It's a very big repository with the data stream coming from disparate data sources. They collect everything in its raw form, so you don't spend cycles unnecessarily on things that might not be needed. Once it's there, it can be used to analyze everything. So here, the last like 3 points you kind of see, actually it's collect everything, analyze anything, and store as is in its raw form. That's kind of the definition of a data lake. And Azure is Microsoft's implementation of data lake. And the last point is to predict the foreseeable future. That's like you can use machine learning or something on the data to extrapolate the current trends and things like that. So we're going to be touching upon the machine learning part of it, but then like we'll be taking a look at Azure Data Lake, which kind of forms the premise or the ecosystem under which U SQL exists. Yeah, let's see where does it fit in. Azure Data Lake is it's nothing but a big repository where it kind of stores data in its raw form. It has two parts actually: the compute side of things and then the data side of things. On the compute side, Microsoft offers two different services. The one is Azure Data Lake HD Insight. HD Insight is nothing but Microsoft's implementation of the Hadoop stack. And then the new one is Azure Data Lake Analytics. The difference between HD Insight and Analytics is HD Insight is based on Hadoop, where actually like you have all the, you write a program or an application or something, so the compute node kind of like moves closer to the data. There is very less data movement. The compute nodes actually, they move closer to the data, they process it, so they kind of map and then they kind of reduce. Whereas in Azure Data Lake Analytics, it's the traditional paradigm where you kind of write an application, the data moves to the application, gets processed, and then you get the output. So it's kind of two paradigm shifts actually, like two entirely different way of processing. So most of Microsoft's products are like you write an application, that data moves to the application, gets processed, and then you get the output. On the data part, most of the storage here that you see here, they're all based on HDFS, web-based HDFS. It's a Hadoop distributed file system. This is kind of like a hyperscale storage that can scale to terabytes or petabytes of data. And this is again like the three services that are offered by the Azure Data Lake. The HD Insight, cluster as a service, we're not going to look at it today. We're going to take a look at the analytics and the storage part. Analytics is the compute node and storage is the data part. And it says still in preview, general availability is expected later in 2016, later this year. Okay. And this is kind of the general definition of a data lake. You ingest, you store, and only when you need it, you kind of analyze it. At that point, like your data is available in raw format. So whatever data that you need, you kind of apply schema on read, and then you kind of ingest it, like, and then you kind of process it. These are the different clients you can use for running batch queries, intra-day queries, near real-time analytics, machine learning, and data warehouses. Yeah. And for the ATL analytics part of it, you can, at the present moment, you can pull in data from 5 different data sources in remote mode. On local mode, you can pull it from your file system, but on the remote mode, you can pull it from the Azure SQL data warehouse, which came generally available like a month back or something like that. The Azure SQL database. So these two are like platform as a service product. You get an instance of it. You don't have your familiar SSIS tools, anything like that. Because yeah, since you just have an instance of it, SSIS doesn't work there. So you could use U SQL as part of an ETL infrastructure for moving data in and out of those Azure data warehouse or the SQL database. If you look at the other two data sources, the storage blobs and Azure Data Lake Store, you have those arrows pointing both ways, which means they can read and write back. So those are the only two data sources that's available right now, but you can always write your own outputters to extend it to other data sources that's not covered here. And then the other one is a SQL database in Azure VM. This is your regular run-of-the-mill full-fledged SQL server running on a VM. This has like SSIS, SSAS, all those other things. And you can run federated queries. Actually, they kind of target or pull data from different data sources, and they can write to either one of those data sources, the Azure Data Lake Store or the blobs. Let's briefly go over like how to get started, and then we'll take a look at demos. The rest of the session is going to be full of demos. So the first thing you need to start using Azure Data Lake Analytics is to have an account. You can create an analytic and a storage account. Both are available for free. The storage is available like you only get charged based on the amount of data that you store there, whereas the analytics part of it is only charged like only when you're using the compute power of it. So if you're not using the compute power, you're not getting charged at all. Whereas for storage, if you have a lot of data that's stored there, you're going to be built appropriately based on the amount of storage you take. So we'll go about setting up an analytics account and a storage. Let's go over like a couple of other things actually. In case if you're starting out from scratch, Microsoft has a program called Visual Studio Dev Essentials program. If you already have an MSDN, yeah, you won't have any issues. You could use one of those Azure hours that you get from through your MSDN subscription. But if you're all new to this, you can sign up for this program, and it comes with lots of freebies. You'd be able to like download a community edition of Team Services. That's what I'm going to be using today. What I'm using is through a Visual Studio Dev Essentials program. You don't have to pay anything, and they give you $25 Azure credit for a year. So, so that kind of comes approximately $300 equivalent to that. You get some trainings through Pluralsight and Intellect for 3 months. You get free editions of SQL Server and R servers, and if you're into mobile development, Xamarin University offers online classes and things like that. So I've already signed up for it. I'll show you. I'll provide the links towards the end of the session in case if you are not aware of it, you can go explore, sign up, and download those tools for free. And you can do most of these developments on the cloud, but you don't get all the IntelliSense that comes with Visual Studio. So if you want to develop through Visual Studio, you have to download Azure SDK. That's kind of a plugin that plugs into Visual Studio that you can use for development. And when you install the Azure SDK, it kind of downloads Visual Studio tools for Azure Data Lake Analytics. But this kind of like, it's not updated every month. Like the last update came a couple of months back, but the team has been working diligently on it, and every month they kind of update the Azure Data Lake Analytics. The last update was on a week back. August 10th is when they made the last update. Currently, they support version Visual Studio 2013 and 2015. So let's go through this, and then like rest of it's all like demo. So that's what we're going to be looking at. So let's go ahead and set up in Azure Data Lake Analytics and Storage accounts. In case if you have any questions, yeah, feel free to ask in the meantime. So I'm logged into Azure. That's portal.azure.com. So I'm going to be creating new accounts here. So let me go ahead and I'm going to be creating the data analytics. It's going to ask me to create a storage also. So this is where you click. Actually, it says Data Lake Analytics and says Preview. And since I'm logging in through the Visual Studio Dev Essentials program, I'm seeing that as a developer program benefit account. If you have a MSDN accounts, those things should show up here. So here I'm going to be saying like a PAS DWBI virtual chapter. So that's the full URL of the analytics account. And here I'm going to create a resource group. So probably I'll just create VC resource group. Resource group is nothing but a logical container where you kind of like club together different resources. So we know actually like what are the different resources that's been clubbed together actually. So it's kind of easier. And here in the location, like you don't have much option if you go with the developer benefit program. But if you have a MSDN, you should be able to see like some various like locations in the US or across the world. And here you have an option to set up an Azure Data Lake store. If you have an existing one, you can still use that. I'm going to create a new one. So by default, like it gets the same name, actually gives the same name, and then like suffixes ADLS, Azure Data Lake store. I'm going to create that. Okay, and then I'm going to pin it to the dashboard. So I'm just going to create that. It takes a couple of minutes for us to create that. So while that's spinning, let me show you what data we are going to use actually. So today we're going to use price data. So for my input, I kind of like usually go to like finance.yahoo.com. The U SQL comes with a couple of sample projects. One is based on ambulance data, the other one is based on Twitter feeds. The team has been blogging. They have some very helpful code base that you can download and explore. But for my experimentation, I'm going to be using the price data. So I'm just going to be using Apple for most of the development. So let me go ahead and I think it's still searching. Yeah. And that's a Dev Essentials program. And let's see like how far. Oh, okay, there is. It's still creating. So yeah, I got Apple's data here. I'm gonna go here to the historical data tab. Okay. And by default, kind of pulls in 1 year of data, but the data that I've downloaded actually I use like the max thing. I think since from 12 till 1982, that when I'm applying and then downloading it. So that's the kind of data I have on my local machine. So that's the data I have, and here that's the same data. So I'm just going to show you a preview of like what it has. So it has the date, the open price, high price, low price, close price, volume, and then the adjusted close. I'll show you what's an adjusted close, and it has a header. So if you look at the various components of SQL Server on the enterprise side, for ETL movement, they have SSIS. For modeling, they have SSAS, the analytical services, and for presentation, they have reporting services. On the self-service side, for ETL, they have Power Query. For modeling, they have Power Pivot. And for presentation, they have Power Map and Power View. But if you downloaded Power BI desktop or the Power BI on the web, that includes across the board actually. Like you can extract, you can analyze, and you can report to. But on the cloud side, the SSIS part of it is kind of missing on the SQL Server side. You could use SQL to replace some component of it. So that's what we're going to be using actually right now. On the first step, it's like on SSIS, if you have a single data flow with the source and the destination, that's what our first demo is going to be. So let's go take a look at it actually. So what we are going to do is we're going to read this data and then write it back. So it's kind of extract and then like load. There's no transformation in the first demo. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's see where we are on the creation of it. Okay, so that's created here actually. So on the past WBI, let me go to the home page, and then like that's the one we created, past DWBI virtual chapter. You can explore some sample scripts if you want to play around with it. If you click on it, like you should be able to, like first time around, you should be able to like create the sample. Clicking on it, it creates a sample. But here, like we're going to explore some downloads that we did. So here I'm going to create like 2 folders for like input and output. That's where you're going to drop some files and output. So I create 2 folders, and then input, I'm going to be uploading some files actually that I've already downloaded on my local machine. So price data. Let's see that. Okay. I've already downloaded those 5 different price data, so I'm just going to be opening that, and I'm going to be uploading it. So what I'm doing is basically uploading this to the Azure Data Lake store, those 5 files, and they've already been uploaded here actually. So once I refresh it, there should be zeros here actually. Yeah, there it is, all 5, and I can preview that. For time being, we're just going to use like one file, and then we'll kind of like use a wildcard to load the other files. So we have the data with the date, we have the header information, and then we have the adjusted close and things like that. To give you a preview of like what we're going to be doing, let me just show you. Let's go ahead, get started with the demo first, and then I'll show you how the data looks like actually. So let's create a first job on the cloud. So we're going to create like a test run, and this kind of a U SQL syntax. So first one's like a price data. That's kind of a row set. You kind of extract, and I'll describe the syntax a bit later. So I'm just going to go ahead and then like define the schema on read, because I'm going to read and I'm going to be defining the schema just in time before I read. So date, open, that's double, open price, high price, that's an extension line, then low price, then close price, then I had volume information that's going to be long, and then I have the adjusted close. Yep. I'm going to be loading it from a location using an extractor. That's the syntax actually. I just read everything into it in the path. The file that we are looking at is on the input folder, and then we are looking at apple.csv. That's input folder. Then I'm going to be writing this data back into the output folders. I'm going to be writing output, the price data, to a location using output.csv. We have different options of using different formats of the default of the CSV, which is a comma separated value file. The other one is a TSV, the tab separated values, and then you have a text format, like something like this if you want to have a pipe delimiter or something like that. If none of those 3 fit your build, then you can extend your own thing using using the C# side of things. So here for time being, I'm just going to go ahead and like write to the CSV file, and then the output is going to be output, and then like orders.text. So that's a basic syntax. And then like thing is like it kind of had little intelligence, but once you put a semicolon, things like that, it doesn't do much formatting. But let me just go ahead and submit the job, and let's see like how doing the same thing on the Visual Studio side of things really enhances the experience that we come across. So I'm just submitting the job. So now everything is running on the Azure side of things. So right now it's kind of compiling. It prepares and queues and then kind of runs. There is a little overhead when you start for the first time. It kind of compiles, creates all the binaries. This overhead is the same whether you run for like 10 files, 100 files, or a million files or something, because like the time it takes for it to generate and then like queue it and run it, it's the same. So let's see. It kind of came across an error. So let's take a look at that. Let's refresh that. Okay, here it's kind of says using extractor. Actually, yes, I think it's like, yeah, extractors. I think it's a row here. Yeah, it's just like a resubmit the job. Yeah, that's a user-defined function that's kind of available out of the box. So. Yeah, the screen doesn't refresh until 30 seconds has passed. So if you want to refresh sooner, yeah, you kind of click on that. So that's what it does actually. So it's kind of, you read the file input, that's output. All it does is kind of like extracts and then kind of like loads. There is no transformation part of it here. So now it's running. Yeah, this overhead is the same irrespective of the load actually that you have on the machine. So, and they should only get better actually as the team works on like optimizing some of those things. And the output, yeah, I think it's already generated that, I guess. Yeah, it still hasn't run to completion. So open hello. Yeah, let me just resubmit that. You see, I have the code here, actually the same code. So I had the header actually. I need to skip the header. So I didn't have that part because like, yeah, I defined the data type. I haven't defined the header. So it's kind of erring out on that. And this is a new feature that was added in the latest release. So I have to skip the header, which is on the first row. So skip first n rows, one. Yeah, let me just submit it. And while that's running, let me explain the syntax here actually. Since the U SQL, the U in U SQL is stands for the unification brought about by integrating the T SQL part and the C# part. So when we integrate the features from two different languages, we need to have some house rules actually as to if you have the same keyword, which one belongs to which language. So if you look at it, some of those capitalized ones actually, those all are from the T SQL side of things. So the extract from using those all from the data extraction part of it. And the data types and those things are from the C# part of things. So anything that's caps, it's all T SQL. Anything that's kind of lowercase or mixed ones, they are considered as objects from C# from the .NET world. So if you're going to use as would serve as an alias in T SQL world, but it will serve as kind of a caching operator in the .NET world actually. So you need to be like careful about using some of those keywords. Okay, so it's kind of running. I think like it's almost finalizing that run. And output. Let's take a look at the output. So it's nothing. It's going to be the same input. All we did is like read it and then wrote it back actually. So that's the input here. Open, hello, close, adjust, and then like that's the output here actually. Yeah. So let me. Input and output are the same. All we did is read it and wrote it back. So let's see how using Visual Studio is going to improve it. We're going to use the same code, so that way, like if we don't, it's the same code base actually across the environment. So I'm going to be, let me copy the code. Okay. Once you install the SDK and Azure Data Lake Analytics, you should see a new project I've added for you. So once I create like new project, you should see something called like U SQL here. Over here, Azure Data Lake Analytics. So under Azure Data Lake, you have U SQL data type. You can create U SQL project, or you can create libraries. In case if you want to distribute it or like you want to encapsulate your code so that way it can be shared across projects, you can create your own library. And the other three are based on like a test project and a unit test for the test project. So yeah, let's go ahead and create a U SQL project here. Let's create it under pass U SQL. Let's create that. Okay, and I'm creating U SQL project. I'm using the Visual Studio Community Edition, and once it's loaded, you should be able to like see this icon. Like you should see Azure Data Lake. Like you can submit a job, view job, option settings, and Azure Data Lake. So the current version is version 2.2. That's what we have here. It also creates a toolbar here, so you can click on that. By default, it has two locations: the local run and then the temp run. So what it did is I kind of like mapped to the same location here, so that way you can keep track of all those things. So under the users, your profile, app data, local users. Under that, like I created 2 folders, input and output. Just like on the cloud, I created on my local machine. So if we have 5 files here, we're going to be looking at 1 file right now. So, and then the output folder, yeah, let's go ahead and delete that so that like when it runs, we should be able to see that. So I'm going to be like pasting the code, the same one that we did that on the cloud. So here it has IntelliSense here actually. If I put the semicolon, you should be able to like format. It kind of automatically formats it. So which means if the syntax is right, actually it's going to format it. So here you can see like extract is kind of the SQL word, and this is kind of a variable, and I have the data type here. If you notice it, like in the T-SQL side of things, we usually like have a variable like date, and then you have the data type, date time 2 or something like that. On the SQL side of things, you will have like the data type first, and then you have like date or something like that. But in the U SQL world, it's kind of a mix of those two. What you do is actually like you have your variable here, but then you have your data type like this here. Actually, it's kind of like it's neither T-SQL nor C#. It's a mix of those things. You have the variable name first, and the data type second, like T-SQL, but then like you have in a different case, so that like the data type is from .NET world. So that way, like you know, like which feature came from C# and which came from T-SQL. So the same input here, and here I'm running in a local mode. I'm going to be submitting it. Let me just go ahead and do that. It's running locally. And let me open the folder so that we can take a look at it as it creates it. So right now it kind of compiles. Local is a bit faster because like you're not kind of moving a lot of files. But like just like .NET, it's going to take a while actually, the first time around for creating just in time the assemblies. So, okay. So it starts that, okay. And it's done. So here, if you look at it, that's the actual data here. So your timestamp, open, high, low, close, volume, and then the adjusted close. So that's the window here, and then like here, the interface that you see here, that's the same actually that we saw on the cloud. So this is the location from where the input file is extracted from, and this is the place where the output file is written back. So, and it's got several options. You can take a look at the script that got executed. You can take a look at the algebra. It kind of creates behind the scenes, actually creates some vertex that's for like a different parallelism, like how many data like units it's going to create, where the output file is going to be stored, the graphical thing like the XML thing that you saw, that, and then like for this is a scope thing. You see lots of words like scope and cosmos there. That's because of the code word of for the project under which they kind of were developed. So that, and you can take a look at the code themselves. This kind of like everything is converted to the .NET side of things. So you can see that it creates managed shell. So this is a complete code, and whatever T-SQL part of it that we had, like everything is converted to a .NET equivalent. So this gets converted to IL code, and that's what's getting deployed there. So everything's kind of transparent. If you want to look at it, you can take a look at the code. So now we did that run locally. I want to show you some options here actually, and here like you can take a look at a graphical view of the same thing that you developed. So under local mode, if you click in here, you have some advanced options. So it's going to bring up a dialog. So you have an option like every job has a GUID. So in case if there's an error or something, you can always refer this GUID, and like once you deploy in the cloud and it fails, you can tell the team if something is buggy or something, they'd be able to use this GUID, and then they should be able to track the runs to fix any potential problems. When you run in local mode, parallelism by default is left at 1 because like I've done some .NET development and we have multi-threading and things like that. In debug mode, it's not fun actually, like if you're going to be switching context between different threads. So it's kind of a good thing actually they have restricted parallelism to 1 in a local mode. But the story changes completely like if you're going to be deploying it on the remote one actually. Yeah. So this is a Azure Data Lake account that we created. And here, before I submit it, I just want to show you like what are the options that we have. You have 60 degrees of parallelism here. By default, it allocates 5. you should be able to adjust between 1 and 60. And it has some priorities. If you already have some job going, and then if you want to reinitiate a different job and you want to have that run earlier or later, you can set up from priorities. Based on that, it's kind of queued differently. I'm going to be submitting it, and let's take a look at some of those jobs. All we're doing right now is processing a single file. So degree of 5, we are kind of like over allocating, but let's see what happens. So when I'm doing it now, it's kind of pushing everything actually to the cloud, because it kind of like pushes to the cloud, and from there it kind of creates all those nodes and does all those parallel processing there. I should be able to like look at the status of the job either in Visual Studio or on the cloud side of things. So let's stay on Visual Studio and take a look at it, and then let's go on the cloud and see like, yeah, what are the different options it offers. And while that's running, let me show you like just like your C# or VB.NET or anything like that, you have the designer equivalent and then the code behind. So it has the same thing here. Like this is a front-end part of things. There's actual script, and then the back-end side of things is the .NET part of code. We don't have any code yet. We'll add some additional codes, but I just want to show you the separation of the code constructs actually between those two windows. So let's look at actually, yeah, that's still, it's running right now. Yep, that's done, and yeah, let it run to completion. So yep, that's done. So we can take a look at the output. There's the same output actually here. So it downloads it, and we connect it to the cloud, and we looked at the output here. So to get an understanding of the data, I loaded the same data here actually. So this is our console. I just want to show you like what we are doing here. So I've loaded the Apple price from 2010. Actually, we didn't go all the way back to 1980. I just want to show you like what we are trying to do. This is the price data based on the actual trading price. You see a big actually like from $700 to $100, because the actual open, high, low, close prices are the actual trading prices. They're not adjusted for any stock splits or reverse splits. So that's where actually, if you're going to be using adjusted price, that's where like it creates a continuous price. So that's what we're going to be looking at. So instead of using the regular close price, we're going to be using the adjusted close price. And here I'm going to be creating like two indicator lines, like a simple moving average of 50 days. You see that? It kind of averages or smoothens out the curve of the close price, adjusted close price of the previous 50 days. And another line is like the previous 200 days. So I'm going to be using a logic where actually if the 200-day moving average crosses the 50-day moving average, or the other way around, I'm going to be either buying or selling into the market. So instead of that, like we're going to be mapping it. So let's go back to using from since 1980, and then I had data from 1212. So that's what we're going to be using. So yeah, go ahead, close that, and close that. Just wanting to show you this part. Okay. Okay, and this trade is not in existence yet. We're going to be creating that. So yeah. And yeah, if you want to look at the data here, you can take a look at the data here. So let's go ahead and create those signals, actually the trade signals from our code. So let's go back to SQL. Yeah. Okay. And here, like we can look at some diagnostics and things like that. So what we found is actually by default we allocated 5 degree of parallelism. But then since we had only one code path or the execution path, we allocated 4 data lake allocation units. So which is kind of like we're wasting the usage. Though we get billed only during runtime, since we allocated 5 of them, we got billed for like 5 units of execution. Though we really used only 1 unit of execution. So we look at some of those charts, like this is what we allocated 5 degree of parallelism, but we just used only 1. So we can run some code to optimize it actually based on past runs and things like that. So we don't want to be like too much way overboard than what we could use. So it's kind of a balancing act. So, and so we have the code here. So let's go ahead and we can do some sorting and things like that. Right now the price data is from like a 16, 15, it's in reverse order because the earlier data is here, so you can sort it by the output. So order by date, so you can add that, so that kind of orders it. So I already have some code here. Actually, I'm going to be like, instead of typing it, thought I'll just reuse existing code here. So let's see, I think I should have that, yes. Okay, I'm going to be using this code. So I have the open layer close just for that one ticker. And then like I'm using some windowing functions of average over the 50-day moving average. So I'm going back 50 preceding days from the current row. This is 200 days from the current row. So it doesn't make sense to actually handle data anything less than 200 days. So I'm doing a filter where like more than 200 days and go back 50 and 100. So we have two rows there. Then here I have some code here. So let's go back and then like create some class. Okay. Yeah. And in here I'm going to be having the code behind file. I'll upload this code so that you can take a look at it. So all it does is like, yeah, it has a static variable that kind of like starts out flat. I'm passing in the day number and then the simple moving average of 50 days or the past 200 days. And based on like which one crosses the other one, since I'm flat, I can go long entry. Or if it crosses the other way around, I can go short. If I'm already long, I exit the position taking a profit. Or if I'm already short, I can exit the position taking a profit. Right now, I'm not like, this is kind of a black box. This is kind of a sample. Yeah, don't follow this advice. This is one of the lame examples, but then I just want to have some code that can kind of explain what could be used. So, and here, like, yeah, that's the namespace, the demo. So pass SQL. Okay, let me just code that and stop that. Pass U SQL demo dot get signal. That's the code I have. So what it does is like once it executes the code, it goes into the C# part of things, and then like it generates a tape signal, and that I'm kind of outputting. So let me run it locally, and then I can run it on the cloud. So here I'm kind of running it locally. So yeah, let's see, 1242. Let's see once it runs. Yeah, we should see an update. You're almost kind of running out of time, but then like we're almost wrapping up. You can see it's kind of still building here. So okay, so it's running. Yep, there it is. So it extracted, it ran through completion. We're looking at the output file. So have these files here actually. Yeah, so have the short entry, then short exit, long entry, then have long exit. So I have like lots of files in here actually. So let's filter out all those things and just look at only the trade orders. So what we can do is yeah, I do have a sample here actually. Yeah. Just have one more filter. We have the trades. I can override that same thing, or like I can write trades too from trades. Yep. So here I'm looking for the trade signal, and then I'm using the C# property length. So if you have any kind of entry or exit, I'm only filtering for those things. So let me go ahead and submit that. let me just show you. It's still kind of like you're pushing it. I'll blog about like what's happening behind the scenes. It creates all those binary files on your local machine, and then kind of like if you're going to be deploying to the cloud, everything is kind of pushed to the cloud. So that's where like most of the time is being spent on the compiling and then like scheduling it. So okay, so that ran fine. Yep. Let me go ahead and close that. And here, if you look at it, all we have is just once like if you stayed on the same position, we don't get those things. So it has like short entry, short exit, long entry, long exit. And we had the C# part of it here. I'm going to be loading it all in traits, and then I'm going to be mapping it. And you should see those arrows. Okay. Traits. Let's take a look at the traits. Oh, okay. It's a. I think it's a CSV. I think I'm using a tab delimited stuff. And stop there. Let me go ahead and CSV. Yeah, once that's done, like we can load it here and then see like what's happening, because like right now it's tab delimited. I'm reading as a comma separated, so it's everything is loading in a single cell. So almost there. And if you want to extend it to all other rows, actually what you can do is like, just go ahead and do file name star. That's a wildcard. Okay, that run is done. Okay, let me go here. Yep. You can see like I should have mapped it to the exact place. So it's short entry, short exit, long entry, long exit, short entry. So those are the arrows here, right here on the price thing. So these are different points actually. I think we have around 99 points or something like that actually. 99 trades over the past 35 years. So if you look in here, it says like 99 observations of 3 variables. So it's the same data that we got it from the T-SQL side of things, that I'm mapping it here. Because like this is equivalent to an SSIS, so there isn't a GUI, so you can slap a Power BI or R or some other UI to take a look at it visually. So, and you can deploy it to the cloud. I think we're kind of running out of time, so let me just go ahead and wrap this thing up. So that's about the demos. In summary, actually, U SQL kind of brings the best of both the worlds, T-SQL and C#. It unifies the querying of structured and unstructured data. You can do local development for debugging and things like that. Once everything is kind of like nailed, you can deploy to the cloud, where you can scale out based on the degree of parallelism you specify. And now is the time actually like for you to get in on the ground floor. If you're looking at the stock data, would you rather get in on the point A or point B or point C? Now is the opportunity for you to get in on point A, because like it's in development. So, and Microsoft has been using it in the back end for a while. So the project's kind of stable. They're just working on the front end part of things, integrating the Visual Studio. And just keep in mind, right now only 2 data sources are read-write, rest of them all read, but this could change anytime. And just because you can control most of the deployments and things like that using PowerShell or any .NET languages or things like that. These are the current status of things, but then by the very nature they mentioned Python, Java, and things like that. Things could change before it's generally available. So, and these are some of the references to get started using U SQL. And feel free to send me an email if you have any questions. So, Scott, could we go over and see like if they have any questions?
We sure do, and just kind of mention if anyone does have any questions, feel free to go ahead and put them in the Q&A module of the GoToWebinar window. So we do have a couple questions. Let me just go through these real quick. The first one asks about an item about can I use the U SQL on a LAN without an Azure data lakes?
Absolutely, actually. One of the use cases is if you have log files from different servers, you don't have to deploy anything to the cloud. You can do locally. Only downside is you don't have that degree of parallelism. on your local run. So unless you kind of export it to the cloud, you don't get those degree of parallelism, but you can still run it locally. That could change, but right now, degree of parallelism is kind of limited to 1 if you don't deploy it to the cloud.
And the next one, I think, is a little bit of an interesting, but maybe a loaded question. Is USQL the equivalent of Hive SQL?
Yes, you could say that. And USQL incorporates some features of Hive, like the explode and some keywords and things like that, like the pattern matching. Hive is kind of geared towards the HD inside, but then like if you kind of familiar with Hive, some of the syntaxes are brought forward actually on the USQL side of things. And Hive is going to be like it's going to be an equal class citizen on Azure Data Lake Analytics too. You're working on it, but right now USQL is kind of the leader on it. But then Hive SQL should be coming full-fledged on the Azure Data Lake Analytics side of things too. So
Okay.
I would say yes.
Okay, and then this is the last question we have posted out here, and it's asks, if I've developed libraries, how do I go about importing them and using them in USQL?
Yes, okay. So that's a good question. So let me go ahead and show you quickly. So you have your Visual Studio here. In here you have your USQL part of the code here. And then here you can include your existing references of any other libraries or something like that you bought, either your own developed libraries or third-party libraries from MATLAB or SPSS or SAS or anything like that. You should be able to reference it, and then like you should be able to like do using whatever the MATLAB, whatever it is, and then you should be able to use those functions inside. So that's the way how you reference.
Good stuff. And that's all the questions we have. So just want to thank you for the presentation today. I know I learned quite a bit, so it's always good to see the different learning opportunities that we have. So thank you for your time today, and thanks everyone for listening. We had about a little over 100 folks attend, so we look forward to any future presentations too. Also.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.